I was told at one point that I had 24 to 48 hours to live. I'm a great example of what not to do. I really lacked empathy and compassion. I've been like the black sheep of the family. I've always pushed the edges and done the different thing. I've seen enough people have miraculous and spontaneous remissions and healings physically that I know that we can get through this 100%. It's time for me to step into me. Be the change you wish to see in the world. It's not do the change or create the change, it's be the damn change. Just be it. As humans, the easiest point to increase our longevity of life is to slow down our breathing.
I should say welcome back, because we had you on previously, but that was online, and now you're in person, in the flesh.
Yeah.
Drove your van here, so super grateful to have you here, man.
It's a pleasure. We were talking about this before, the synchronicities. You know, the van that we're in, I just bought in Adelaide and driving it, across to Hay, was with the family for a few days and had some really interesting sort of ancestral stories around Arakoon, where I was brought up, or not where I was brought up, but where my family were brought up in near Uluru. And then when we were talking about the addresses and things, and Arakoon popped up, and I was like, I've never heard of that word anywhere else in my life. I knew I was supposed to be here, so we made it happen.
Fuck yeah, bro. I think, as I mentioned before, I want to start this potty with some breath work, bro. So you want to take us through, a short 5-minute or so breath work?
Yeah. So for those that are listening in, you can drop in and receive this. What we're going to do is conscious connected breathing. So conscious meaning we're mindful of our breath, connected meaning that there's no pause at the bottom or the top. It's like a wave, bouncing off the bottom, bouncing off the top. But we're going to do it through our nose. So conscious connected nasal breathing. I've been doing this personally a lot more, just nasal focused, even in my breath work, just to keep testing and seeing how it impacts my parasympathetic, my rest and digest nervous system. So we're going to do that through the nose, 30 breaths. And then on the final exhale, we're going to just hold and just be in the stillness and experience what's alive within our body. Yeah. And then we'll inhale and we'll do 30 more breaths. And then we'll exhale, hold, same thing. And then when we get to the end, we're going to go in through the nose for 5, out through the nose for 10. So 5 seconds in, 10 seconds out. We'll do that twice. Yep. What that does is with the double length exhale, it increases the amount of time exhaling, and that's going to put us more into that parasympathetic. Mm-hmm. So
sweet. Let's jump in. Let's go.
So if you want to, if you're listening in and you can close down your eyes. If not, you can do this eyes open. You just want to ensure your posture is upright. You've got a tall spine, chin slightly tucked. And if you wish, what I do recommend is that you place your tongue to the roof, the highest point of your mouth. Just press it in there, and that'll keep you in this correct posture through the fascial lines of the body. So we'll start by breathing out on 3. 1, 2, 3. That's 10. Keep going. Fully in and out. And as you're breathing at home, breathing into the belly, then the chest and out. In the belly, then the chest. Then as you exhale, chest contracts, belly contracts, and back to the belly. And if you want to feel into your stomach as you continue with the breaths, as we're at 18 now, you want to push your stomach, the base of your stomach, down into your thighs if you're seated. 2 more. And hold. Just observing what's alive within your body. The tingling, the vibration as we breathe in through the nose in 3, 2, 1. That's it. Keep on breathing. That's 11 now. And if you want to increase the movement of the energy through your body, as you inhale, you want to slide your hands up your thighs and extend your spine. As you exhale, hands down your thighs and round your spine over. So we're starting to curve the spine, flex, rounding over and extend as we inhale. We'll start to move the energy, the cerebrospinal fluid up and down the spine. That's it. Now the last 5, making them the biggest breaths you possibly can. Really active, filling your belly all the way, then your chest, and exhaling it all out. Belly, chest, up into your neck and out. Last one. And hold. Your palms aren't already. Bring them till they're facing up. Palms facing the sky. Spine erect. Just noticing what's within the body in this stillness. Observing how calm the mind is. How still the body is. We breathe in through the nose for 5, in 5, 2, 1. Out for 10. In, out. And keeping the tongue pressed to the roof of the mouth, returning to your normal breath through the nose. Now bringing awareness to your breath throughout this conversation, seeing how slow and deep you can breathe, knowing that they've done research on animals and lifespans, and they've found that those animals that live the longest have the slowest breathing rate not their heart rate, not anything to do with their biochemistry, but their breath rate is the determinant of how long they live. So as humans, the easiest point to increase our longevity of life is to slow down our breathing. When you're ready, you feel called, brother, you can come back.
Fuck yeah. That is how you should start every morning.
Yeah, that's the third time I've done the breath this morning. Got up. Danny and I did it straight away in the van. And when we were driving here, we did another couple rounds. Yeah, it's the tool.
I just feel so dialed in now, man. I'm pumped, man. And the thing is, everyone can do that every day. What was it, 5-6 minutes that took?
And maybe not even.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you can speed it up. And I was only talking to my mum about this the other day because she started on the breathwork journey. She was really resistant to begin with. She'd seen what I'd been through in deeper breathwork when I was healing myself physically. And it took her quite a while to actually try a breath. And then the first time she did, she was just crying. So much gratitude, so much overwhelming feeling of joy. And so she's been on the path. And we were talking about it the other day because she was talking about doing breathwork facilitator training, becoming a practitioner. I was like, 100%, I can take you through everything we teach our practitioners. And the biggest thing I said, though, is just if you know these 4 simple kind of rules or 4 simple sections, it's number 1, if you understand this sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system, which most people in this day and age have heard of. If you haven't, it's just knowing the sympathetic is our exercise or stress response.
Fight or flight kind of.
Yeah. So when we sweat or our heart rate or our breath increases or we feel nervous, that's typically the sympathetic. Same thing as when you're in the gym or you're going for a run. That's just the sympathetic. And then the parasympathetic is rest, digest. That's when we're recovering. That's when we're healing. That's when we're eating food. There's the 2 branches. And if you simply know the 2 branches, you can use the breath, knowing the tools that it links in with on how to tap into each of those systems. So breathing through the mouth and inhaling, so the 2, they are linked with the sympathetic. So mouth breathing is sympathetic, while nasal breathing, nose breathing is parasympathetic. And the same thing, exhaling is parasympathetic. So that's why at the end we do out for 10. We go longer with the exhale than our inhale because it gives us more time in our parasympathetic than our sympathetic. And also why I do all my breath at present through the nose is because it's tapping me more into my parasympathetic state, more rest and digest. But when I go into the gym and I'm about to have a heavy squat or a heavy deadlift, although I'm mouth taping at the moment, so I'm taping while I train to test my capacity in training just through nasal breathing, I've found that I can actually hold a better and create a better brace, intra-abdominal pressure through my trunk when I need to create stiffness through the nasal. But what I do is before I go to lift, I'll do a bunch of really hard accelerated pumping breaths, kind of like Kapalabhati if you've been through it before, but it's a forceful inhale and exhale. So it'll be like a and I focus on breathing into the bottom of my ribs where that fire energy is, and then I'll embrace. And that form of it, like that hard, fast breathing, shallow breathing, that's that sympathetic. So if you just know the tool that nasal breathing and slow exhales is parasympathetic, and mouth breathing and fast inhales is sympathetic, then you can pretty much tap into whatever you want. It's really simple. So they're like 3 key parts that if you know those, you can start to tap into those any way you want, which is why I say with breath work, we do the conscious connected oral breathing. That's, when we do say an hour breath work journey, it is more sympathetic and it's more peaky. So if we're thinking like the landscape, it's really highs and lows, mountains and then valleys. So you have a really big emotional high, and then you'll hit like some really deep, heavy emotions. And that's because the mouth breathing brings up more from the subconscious at sympathetic. When you go through nasal-based breathwork journeys that are longer, say an hour as well, and you do them you can do them in the same depth, but through the nose, you'll find that it's more undulating. It's less peaks and troughs, and it's more kind of moderated. So it means you can integrate it more easily, but you don't necessarily go to the highs and the lows as much. Okay. So and then there's a breathwork technique called rebirthing, and that's really gentle. Like if you've ever seen a baby breathe, it's like a really short, and that's rebirthing technique, and that's really gentle on the body, but you can still have profound experiences. So yeah,
that's interesting, because like you're talking about how deep you can go, especially with mouth breathing, and it takes me back to Espen and that last day and that last breath work that you do. And I'm not sure if you heard about my experience. I've shared it a bit. I got that deep where I had this vision of me as a little boy walking up to my dad. I didn't know it was my dad, but I grabbed his hand and I shifted into my adult version of myself, because Bill Baxter, I've never had a close relationship with my dad. So from those 3 days, I let go of a lot of blame, a lot of resent, a lot of anger. And in that breath work, it kind of just all came together. And once I shifted into the adult version of myself and I was looking him in the eyes, I was like, Dad, I love you. Thank you for everything that you've done for me. But it's time for me to take personal responsibility for my life and step into who I want to be.
Yeah.
And that was so powerful. And I remember after, I'm getting feelings now, my insides were just like shaking.
Yeah.
And I remember Espen going, does anyone want to share? I didn't want to share, but guess what happened? Fucking hands straight up. And I got up in front of how many people there, 200 people, whatever.
Yeah. And
I shared what happened, and fuck, it really sunk in, and it was so profound, the effects that it had on me. And the next day I went to the beach, wrote like 3 pages in my journal, then sent my dad a massive message. And from there, our relationship has just grown, and we're actually starting to have a stronger relationship now, whereas before we didn't. And that all stemmed from really, yes, the 3 days, but that breath work really cemented it all. And it just goes to show the power of the breath. And so many of us, say, why do we need to breathe? I already know how to breathe, but we don't. And just by doing that, whether that be mouth breathing, nose breathing, to regulate, the stresses in our life, especially in society now where it's so go, 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 we never actually get to slow down. And just by incorporating this 5-6 minutes of breath, we can just chill and just reset. And it's so powerful, man. Yeah. So powerful.
At the 3 days, did you do a breath work each morning?
Yeah, so we did the yoga breath work.
Yeah. So you did breath each morning.
Yeah, and then just to build us up.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, that was one of the things that we implemented, and I'm gathering for most of the people listening, they'll have already heard about Dr. Espen's work and how incredible it is. That's one of the things that was a big shift, was doing the breath each morning, because it was this we're just elevating more and more, so that by the time we get to the 3rd day, it's like an explosion. Yeah, the way Espen, and this is his proprietary work, the way he breathes people and the way that he cues it is his own kind of blend and his own creation, which is so epic, because it not only taps into, as you've heard, the breath process, but it also taps into our toroidal field, or our bioenergetic field, and is able to, when we set the intention and the energy, it moves it through the body. It starts to open us up more. So on that as well, for those that are listening that might go, but I don't have 5 minutes to breathe. I know my old response was fuck off. You can't make 5 minutes to breathe. You can't make 5 minutes for anything. But now I get it. And there is a technique that we've been taught by the incredible practitioners from Adelaide, and that's Steph and James from Cool to Be Conscious in Adelaide. And during the continual upskilling, when I was running the upskilling for Cool to Be Conscious, we got the practitioners to create a breath based on, that's right, the parasympathetic and the sympathetic. And they created this one called the 777 breath. And the 777 breath is really straightforward. So anyone can do it and it'll take you 30 seconds. 7 breaths, deep, active breaths, mouth or nose, it's up to you, at normal speed. 7 at double speed, 7 at triple speed, and then just hold or exhale. They say like exhale for 21 seconds, which you can. Some people like just hold. But that's the quickest state change of all the breath works I've done. Is that just a 777? Yeah. So for those that are listening, you can give that a go. And if for speed wise, I'll do 3 breaths at each for a moment so they can get an understanding of the speed. So it'd be like and even that, I'm like, whoa. Yeah. And that's 9 breaths.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, it's powerful. It's potent. So
it's that low, medium, high. Just boom, hits you.
Yeah, it hits you so fast. I haven't done it at a time where I come out of it and I'm feeling really kind of spacey. Like you can hear my voice change. Yeah. So I'm like, it's like, oh, you start to warp a bit. So
and even that was less than 30 seconds. Like, come on. If people say they don't have time, like seriously.
Yeah, it's incredible. So yeah.
Do you incorporate like box breathing, stuff like that?
Not really, not myself.
Yeah. And
not really with clients either. So the short answer would be no. I know it's really popular and it's got its benefits in terms of enabling people to, use it for a mindful practice. We teach it when I was teaching the practitioner training with Cool to Be Conscious, we would teach that as a tool, box breathing, but primarily for mindfulness meditation. Counting is a way to just keep anchored to something, but then also knowing that you're only inhaling for say 4 seconds, and then you've got 2 pauses and an exhale, which creates 12. You've got a 1-to-3 ratio of parasympathetic to sympathetic. So it's really effective. I just prefer to do my in for 5, out for 10s, or in for 5, out for however long I can. So, yeah.
Yeah, because I was watching, it was like a documentary Chris Hemsworth is doing, and they'll incorporating breath work, and they do it in like firefighting when they're doing the trainings and stuff. And I found it very interesting. Like, it's cool that people at that level are actually incorporating these kind of things.
Yeah.
Whereas normal society, we see it as kind of weird. It's getting better now.
Yeah.
But it's seen as weird, yet these professionals are actually incorporating it now.
Yeah.
And it's awesome to see, because as I mentioned before, we're so fast paced, and in stressful situations like that, we need to be able to slow down and concentrate and be present in the moment. If not, we're going to stuff up and make mistakes.
And it's only going to continue to expand into more Western society and mainstream. Like when you go into Eastern societies, a lot of the, not necessarily holotropic breath work specifically, but just breath modalities and breath tools are so prevalent in Eastern societies, and we haven't really tapped into them. But now they're becoming, popular. What's the word? Like, I'd want to call it like, the trend.
Yeah.
It's becoming trendy, but knowing the benefits that it have, it's not going to be a fad. To me, it's going to continue to grow in its expansion until it's a household thing. And knowing that they will be teaching this at schools in the future for children to regulate their stress. My housemate Harry, although he doesn't present that way when you meet him and people know him, he is really challenged by social anxiety a lot. Like he's sitting there, he presents so comfortably and so calm and so positive, but we've spoken about it and he's like, inside, my alarm bells are going off. And he's, in the last couple of weeks, he deleted all social media.
Yeah.
And he said, I don't have any social anxiety now. He's communicating with people, he's going out and about, he's sitting down having coffees with new people, no social anxiety at all. And I was like, I'd never put that together, but he said, removing the social media and actually being more present with people and connected and not having the phone has shifted his whole state. So that blew me away, because it's just an anecdotal, one person.
Yeah.
But it's, if anyone's listening to this and they're like, they've tried all these things for social anxiety or situations of anxiety, might be worth a try. So yeah.
I can relate to that. Like your friend Harry, I'll sit here like all composed and stuff, but inside my head is just fucking about to explode and trying to all these scenarios going through. How do I escape if something goes wrong? But since incorporating breath work and obviously doing the podcast and communicating with a lot more people, it has helped dramatically in calming that down. But even this morning, I woke up and I had a bit of anxiety. I'm like, I've met you before, like we're mates, but still a bit daunting every time I do a podcast. Yeah. But now, we do the breath work, we dropped in, I'm like, I'm pumped. I'm ready to go, man. So it's something, as I said, everyone can incorporate, because I know a lot of people like myself do experience anxiety. I think it's a good thing to experience anxiety, but I think everyone needs to learn to control it.
Yes. Yeah.
Because for so many years, I used to see anxiety as a bad thing, a negative thing, and I let it control me. Yeah. Whereas now I see it as a sign of something that I need to actually go towards. And seeing studies and stuff, there's a massive correlation between anxiety and actually excitement. Yeah. On the physiological level. Yeah. The sweaty palms, the jitteriness, it's the same as being excited. So now I'm like, okay, I'm not actually I may be anxious, but now I say to myself, I'm actually excited. I'm pumped. Yeah. And just take a few deep breaths and I'm ready to drop in and ready to go. Yeah. And it's so powerful once you change your perspective on things.
Yeah, the reframe. For many years, and this is I guess who I used to be before I had all of the health challenges, I really lacked empathy and compassion, and I was so dogged in my determination that I felt like anyone else that wasn't determined and motivated and shooting for the stars was, wasting breath. That's how I lived back then. And then through the journey that I went on with my health, there was a lot more understanding and a lot more compassion. And one of the big areas for me was that I didn't understand anxiety. To me, I'd never been an anxious person. I'd always been so confident, I guess. Looking back, I wasn't necessarily anxious, but I was in a state of fight or flight constantly. I couldn't sit still. If I wasn't shaking my hands, I was tapping my feet. If I wasn't doing that, I'd be clicking my fingers. There was just always an excess energy that wanted to be expelled.
And now they label that as ADHD and all that stuff.
Yeah, 100. And this is the thing. There's so many labels I could have been given over the years that it's been through deep inner self-work. It's been, that could have been a label and I could have been medicated for that. But going through the work and the process, I've been able to stop or prevent them. And one of them was PTSD. I don't associate with the label, as we've spoken about before. I don't identify with labels. But after what I went through, and full disclosure, for those that may not know, what happened to me was ulcerative colitis, which is an autoimmune condition where your immune system attacks your large intestine. And I was told at one point that I had 24 to 48 hours to live. I wouldn't have died back then, but what it did was awaken me to what have I done with my life. And a part of that journey was I'd soiled myself, shit myself, whatever you want to call it, more times than I could possibly count, because at that point in time I just had no control over my bowel. It was so damaged. And so I couldn't leave the house. I'd probably been in the house 8 to 12 months. And I remember when I moved back to the Sunshine Coast after being in the care of my family, the first time I went to leave the house was to go and get a haircut. And I had to literally have music in my headphones as I walked to the van, as I drove the van to the plaza, which is 4 minutes. Then when I got to the plaza, I had my headphones in to keep me with the music, calm the music that I could sing along to walk to the toilet, just to go just in case. And then I'd keep it going, and I'd get to the barber, and I'd be standing there freaking out. And then I actually had to play the music while I was having the haircut to keep my mind focused on something, because at that point it ended up being very psychosomatic, where it was more the freaking out about it, the post-traumatic stress, that was causing me to freak out and excrete. Yeah. And so I can still remember I was on the barber chair and I was white knuckle gripping the armchair, the chair arms, and sitting there and being with the music, and my chest was so tight. And that was the day where I realized I've got something serious here that I'm going to need to work through. And it took me, it's probably been a year of gradual day-to-day work to the point now where, like getting on an airplane, same thing. I'd have to go to the toilet, when I got to the airport, then while I was waiting, then right before boarding, then as soon as the seatbelt sign would come off or whatever it was, and then I'd go. And then before we come into, before we're about to descend, I'd same thing, just in case. And so it was living a life of fear of just in case. And it's been this slow and gradual process of like, no, you can get through this. And like getting to work through the mental stories that were wired in from all of the trauma of those experiences, because when you're a 25-year-old male and you're in public and then you shit yourself, you're like, oh, I don't have spare undies, I don't have this. Like for a period of time I was wearing nappies. And I remember when mum brought me them, I broke down and cried. And I was like, I'm a 25-year-old man, like what the fuck is this? And it was for quite a period, like for maybe a couple of weeks I wouldn't wear them because I was like, no, I'm not stooping to that. I'll get through it. And, I kept having these issues. So eventually I did. And I can still remember the feeling, and every time I'd put it on, I was like, this isn't me. How have I gone from the badass that I was to this 25-year-old wearing nappies? But that was the reality. And that's from being in a dysregulated state, from not having worked through emotions, through being in that sympathetic, needing to get things done or whatever it was. That's just was the body's response. So to be here today and to be in this state and this state of health without having gone down having left the medication path and going through all of that, it's proof that we as humans, there's nothing special about me at all. Like I fucked myself up to the point I nearly died. Like if anything, I'm a great example of what not to do.
Yeah.
And I've come out the other side. And so it's like, it's showing people what's possible, and the amount of people that, it might be skin conditions or gut issues or anxiety or depression. It's so many of these both physical and mental health challenges. I'm going to call them challenges rather than disorders or diseases. Mm-hmm. To me is underlying based on excess emotion that hasn't been expressed or moved. And just like the experience you said before of through the 3-day event with Espen, moving through anger and resentment and all of those aspects, you come out the other side, you feel lighter, you feel more open. And what did you say? The relationship with dad's just been expanding and growing and transforming. And that's because there's not this weight holding you down. And I know I've spoken about this before on other podcasts, but our body is literally reading our emotional state every moment, because on our cells we have receptors, and a lot of people think that the receptors are only affected by the physical, so the food we're putting in it or the drugs we're taking or whatever it is. But in every moment those receptors are also receiving information about our emotional or our nervous system state. And so as long as we're in this emotional state, which might be lower energy, which they are, we know, like high and low vibrations, that has an impact on the cellular structure through the receptors. And so, as Joe Dispenza would say, if we can make ourselves sick through our thoughts and through our, our state, we can also heal ourselves through our thoughts and our state. And so it's I guess having embodied that and lived that and experienced it to go, this is possible for everyone. So yeah, it's just leaning into it, the bit of discomfort or the nerves about trying this new thing. There's so much on the other side. So
yeah, I think we've moved past the stage of it's all woo-woo now.
Yeah.
It's not like our ancestors did this stuff.
Yeah.
Yet we've moved away from it and we think it's weird now. Like, come on. And I think a prime example of our emotions having an effect on our body and is, for example, if someone lost a loved one and we say, oh, you're heartbroken, but people can actually be heartbroken and they can die from it.
Yeah. Because
they're just in that deep state of, negative energy and dark thoughts that their body just goes.
Yeah. Oh, and to me, I used to really, and again, science background, lecturer at university, I used to struggle with all the ideas of energy. And I still remember when I'd moved to the Sunshine Coast, I'd probably been there for a year, and a guy I used to coach with and mentor down in Victoria, He's a strength and conditioning coach. We went into one of the gyms that he was coaching at the time, and we went in the sauna. And so we'd done the infrared and the ice bath or whatever it was after a lift. And we got in there and he's playing with the lights and going, yeah, look, there's the chakra lights, red for this. And I was like, what the fuck is a chakra? And what the fuck are you talking about? Like that's where I was. And so having gone on this journey into more of the Eastern philosophy and the healing process, realizing there's some merit to this. I still was questionable until through the journey and largely intuitively through what happens with breath work is you start to, during my earlier breath work journeys on myself, I'd find your body can start to just do things that you're not aware of. Like, people go into tetany, but there's times when people's hands are moving and flowing and their body starts to move and shake. And I'd constantly find myself like my hands circling and moving on parts of my body. And it turns out what my body was kind of doing without me realizing was like Reiki. I was moving energy on myself. And as you start to go, okay, I can tap into that, you start to, when breathing others, know intuitively and through, study, know how to tap into that. And I'll be, for example, working energy on a body part of someone, not touching their body, my hand's completely off them, and I might be going through a process where I can feel the energy, and all of a sudden, like that part of their body just starts to open or expand, or they wherever that part of the body is, something will happen. Or you'll speak to them afterwards and go like, oh my gosh, I had this ridiculous sensation. Let's say it's in the bottom of their ribs at the solar plexus. Like midway through the breath, it was like that was on fire. It was like something was coming out of it. And you don't tell them straight away, but afterwards you'll go, just so you know, like I was working your solar plexus at that point in time. And they've got their eyes closed, they've got no idea. And the same thing where let's say, for example, they're holding on, they're in that space where they don't want to let go of the thing. And we've seen this time and time again because, we're training practitioners. So we're training the trainers or the breathwork facilitators and witnessing them breathe each other, then witnessing them breathe others, that, let's say, for example, they're in that state of tetany. So they're holding on and their arms are all clawed up. And usually where their hands are placed on their body is relative to the energy center that's kind of being blocked up. Let's say their hands are kind of out. And this is like a perfect example. We had a girl that was hands out, locked up at heart level. And so one of the practitioners, and she'd been there for like 15 minutes. A few people had attempted because they were learning the process of what to do, had worked her, and nothing had changed because they were working different areas. And then all it took was I just said to one of the practitioners, hey, it's her heart. Like that's why it's here. And I said, literally just go up, intuitively feel and start to, what your body wants to do with the energy around the heart. Literally within like 5 to 10 seconds, she starts moving the heart and then the hands just open and then the tears just start flowing. And it was just grief. Lots and lots of grief from her childhood. And it was like she went through that and then she came out of that breath and it was like she went and integrated and then she came back. It was like she was glowing. She was a different person. The smile, the lightness in her energy, the vibrance, how she was expressing herself. And so as you see it more and more, it's kind of like it's real. You can't question it.
Yeah.
Like you've seen it too many times to go, nah, it's just a coincidence. Because if you've seen it happen over 100 times, you go, this isn't really a coincidence. Like this shit's fucking happening every single time. So yeah, that's become a fascination of mine. As we go deeper into this kind of conversation, you just see more and more things. And yeah, it's remarkable.
I was very skeptical about it all.
Yes, that's the word. Same.
Like, how do all these little glowing lights attached to like different parts of your body is? I was like, what the hell is going on here? And then I come to realize, is that a lot of trauma is held below our solar plexus?
Bottom 3. Yep,
bottom 3.
He's listened well.
Yeah. And I was listening to a podcast, I think it was Travis one.
Yeah.
And he had James O'Connor on there.
Yeah.
And talking about the chakras, and I could relate because James had a lot of groin injuries and I've had groin injuries too. And what he brought up was he felt like because he was the older player in the top squad, he had to feel like he had to prove himself.
Yep.
He had to be the best player out there.
Yep.
When in fact he didn't.
Yeah.
He didn't have to have that kind of ego about him and have to be the best.
Yep.
which is then his body's response was groin injuries.
Yeah.
I could so relate to that because for me, with my groin injuries, over the years, it always used to kind of come up when I felt like I had to be the best.
Yeah.
When I had to get into that rep team and achieve all these big things within the sport that I was playing.
Yeah.
Even now, like being the fittest person on the field and taking as many hit-ups and runs as possible.
Yeah.
Just being involved all the time.
Yeah.
Boom, groin would go. And within the last 3 years or so, I've done my groin like twice.
Yeah.
And it's a bitch of an injury to recover from.
Yeah.
At points I've...
Is that your inguinal ligament?
Yeah.
Or is it like an adductor? Is it a muscle or ligament?
No, it's the tendon ligament.
Yep.
And it runs up. And at one stage last year, I did it that bad that it actually went into my lower abdominals.
Yeah, wow.
Because I kept playing on it.
Yeah.
And yeah, once I had that realization and understanding for the chakras and the energies, and I was like, wow, okay, I don't have to be the fittest. I don't have to be the best. I don't have to prove anything to anyone.
Yeah.
I just have to show up as my best self.
Yeah.
And that kind of really aligned it all for me and gave me a bigger understanding and I guess belief towards it all because, as I said, I was very skeptical in the beginning.
Yeah. Even I know that, say, with Espen, and this is something I'm the same, I don't usually call them chakras. I call them energy centers because, again, if you're talking to, if someone's listening to this and going, fucking chakras, like, what is this bullshit? I get that. And we've both been there. So it's going, for me, it's the last probably 12 months of my life have been... I'm going to say close to 12 months have been really, if we talk about the matrix, red pill, have been deep in consciousness, the journey of spirit, the journey of awakening, finding all the triggers I can to move through them to kind of cleanse this vessel basically. And then it's realizing, okay, now you've experienced a lot, you've been through a lot, you've moved through and embodied. Now it's turning the attention of going the direction and the intention to bringing this to people, but then how to do so in a way where it's received, they're open to hearing it, and they get an experience with an open mind that then transforms them. Because it's like breath work. Until you've tried it and someone's talking about breath work, like, I fucking breathe all day.
Yeah.
Man. Like, I'm going to stop swearing, by the way, because I've done it like 3 times. So is that... until you've experienced it and you know it within your own body, it's just another woo-woo or weird thing. And so now the transition is going from red pill to blue pill, basically going, okay, if this is so transformative for every single person that I've seen and I've worked with personally and seen others work with, we need to bring this to the masses, and most of the masses aren't ready to hear about like chakras and states of consciousness and higher being and all of this. It's going, how do we package this in a way where people want to receive it for performance or for business or for, stress management? Largely our Western society is based around prevention of disease. Like meditation, as an example, didn't get popularized in America, the biggest kind of like Western culture we talk about, until it got brought through by MBSR, which is mindfulness-based stress reduction. So John Kabat-Zinn with MBSR, it's huge. It's spread like wildfire, and people can do these short courses for stress reduction and anxiety management and depression and all of these things. But our Western society is so much based on bring the thing in to deal with the problem we've already got, not do it to improve the baseline that we have.
Yeah.
And so it's working out, okay, these whether it's called MBSR or it's called Vipassana meditation, whether it's called breath work or it's called like improving your performance, just package it. It's, as they say, give them what they want or sell them. I think they say sell them what they want, give them what they need. Yeah. It's like that. Give them what sounds cool, like, oh yeah. And then they experience and go, oh shit, that there's a big thing that happened with the beach. When we started the breathwork stuff down the beach, we had loads of 18 to 21-year-old dudes coming down because we linked in with Blokes Prosper. But what Harry did was, because a lot of kids go and do party drugs. Yeah. Harry's like, dude, you can have like a trip on your breath. And these kids like, what? Are you kidding? Like, this is epic. So we had, roughly 7 to 10 of Harry's friends per weekend. And there'd be like a new 1 or 2 each weekend coming down because they'd hear about it from their friends. Like, dude, it was like I was on, I haven't done it, but like LSD. They'd be like, oh, it's like being on LSD.
Yeah.
Like you have these experiences and you're seeing these visions. And so they got the medicine, as we'd call it, not by them going, oh yeah, you do this breath practice and you're really mindful and you're calm and you're zen. They're like, they kind of sold it to their friends as something that's cool.
Yeah.
And so this is where, for me, as an example, cool to be conscious, when you see most people down at breath work at the beach, they're primarily like 19 to, let's say 28. It's a really young demographic. Then when you go to, say, Spirit Breathwork, which is another organization on the sunny coast, Dan's demographic is more like the, let's say 35 to 55.
Yep.
And so 2 different demographics, similar kinds of breath, but different energies. And one's, they're tailored to, you could say spirit people are more actually, the people that are going there are more spiritually inclined. There'd be more people you'd rock up and look at and stereotype as the hippie, compared to the people down at Cool to Be Conscious is more like those that are following the influences and it's the cool new thing. So you can see that it's kind of like different levels of the game.
It's the way you package it.
Exactly. And that's where, for me, when working with the boys, with Rue and Wright, a lot of it was going, where is their vision of packaging this for the mass, for making it cool? Because that's exactly what we want is for it to reach the masses so that it is kind of like Wim Hof.
Yeah.
So many people have heard of Wim and the Iceman that it becomes acceptable because it's cool. Like, oh, you do that ice bath? Like, that's badass, dude. And it's like, yeah, we do the breath before it to be able to do it. And they go, oh, what's the breath do? And that's kind of like you're in. So to me, it's all about how do we get, breath is just one tool that I use, but it's a modality that has so much power that it's going, how do we get this out to more people? So,
and doing it in a cool way. And as I said, it's all how you package it. And it really relates to what I'm doing with the podcast. And you speak about mental health and it's, no one wants to speak about it. It's not cool to talk about mental health. But now switching the terminology, I focus on mental fitness now.
Oh, I like that.
So
yes.
Now it's, okay, for me, mental fitness is the alignment of mind, body, and spirit.
Yeah.
And it's something that people can work on every single day to get the 1% better.
Yeah.
And I do it in a 3-tier system. So mental fitness is up here. Yeah. Our baselines are mental health because we all have mental health. And below here is mental illness. Now, we're going to go up and down, but our goal is to stay above that mental health line.
Yeah.
And if we do dip, we have those modalities to pick us back up.
Yes.
Makes it something that people can actually speak about.
Yeah.
We can speak about mental fitness.
Yeah.
Yet people don't want to speak about mental health.
Yes.
So just changing those terminologies and making it in a way cool.
Yeah.
We have a larger impact.
That's huge.
And that's what we need to do when it comes to breath work, mental health, mental fitness, and whatever other modalities that we need to, incorporate to make society a much better place.
Yeah.
So important.
Crushing the stigma. That's that literally right there. I know you've had this for a while.
Yeah.
But that, the sign crushing the stigma, what you just encapsulated by saying mental fitness, mental health, mental illness, like that's it. Because you can reframe it. Just this morning, I jumped on my phone just before we came in here, and a friend of ours, he may have been at the event, Sam Tucker? Yeah, Sammy T.
I love Sammy.
Yeah. So Sammy Tucker just posted up that he's been invited to go and speak at I believe it's like a private school in Adelaide. So he's going to get flown down to Adelaide to go and do a talk.
Yeah, wow.
And I believe from his understanding, it'll be about his journey and what he's created and the power of the mind. And so Sammy is getting into the space of going to speak at schools to transform the lives of young men. Not necessarily on mental fitness, but just on the power of the mind. And I'm going here right now, I'm like, that's something for Nick.
It's like actually something I want to do.
Dude, there it is. Like that right there, you being able to take mental fitness, mental health, mental illness to, to schools to speak, whether it be all boys schools or co-ed schools, you being able to go and speak on stage at these, I could already see you doing that because you've got the platform, you've got the podcast, there's that credibility. And then you get to go and share to all of these people who will then listen to the podcast, and it's going to grow it exponentially. And the most incredible thing is you're going to have podcast listeners that are, I'd say high school would be more preferable to speak to because it's where they'll grasp
Yeah.
the aspects. But you're going to have kids from 12 to 18 listening to the podcast with these incredible humans that are, you know, sharing powerful messages. That's where the change comes in the world. The younger they are, that's going to have the biggest flux wave on society.
Yeah.
So if I can help in any way, let's do it.
For sure. We'll have to talk about that later. But that's definitely, that's where it starts, the next generation. If we can get into these schools and into the minds of the young people and, you know, teach them about mental fitness, breathwork, meditation, when they become adults and they go into the real world and the workforce and they get hit with adversity, as we all do,
Yeah.
they're going to be able to better deal with it because they have these tools now.
Yeah.
Whereas we kind of had to figure it out ourselves.
Yeah.
And think about our parents.
Yeah.
Like, they had none of this stuff.
Yeah.
And they just got hit. And I think this is why the older generation find it very hard to deal with all this stuff. And they're just like, oh, suck it up, move past it.
Yeah.
They're not open-minded to actually moving through it and dealing with their emotions and the energies and stuff like that. So, yeah, we definitely need to start with the next generation.
Yeah. And there's two parts there as well. You know, you can lead a horse to water, you can't make it drink. That's number one. For me, for years, I was pushing. I'd been in the personal development space for a long time, pushing my family constantly. You should do this thing, you should do that thing. You know, I did this, you need to do that. And it was just always met with resistance. I remember Mum and I used to get into arguments all of the time. And now she sees through it. But what would happen was we'd be having a discussion and I'd start to challenge her on something. And I'll be like, Mum, what's underneath that? And then she'd be like, and you know, it's laughable now. She's like, there's nothing underneath. I don't know what you're fucking talking about. Fuck off. Stop trying to do this to me. And I'm like, that's exactly why there's something under there. And she's like, there's nothing under there. I don't know what you're talking about. Stop challenging me. That was just her defense mechanism because she knew that I wouldn't press her when she got emotional until she started breath work and she had that experience where she opened herself up. She wasn't ready for the journey until she opened herself. I couldn't crack her open as her son. It wouldn't work. And through her then leading the way, you know, my sister, my middle sister, Amber, she then started. And then Dad came to Espen's 3-day with Mum and he did it. Like he went all in and my dad's never been to a personal development event in his life. Yeah, dude, like old school Farmer Joe.
Yeah, okay.
Like drives tractors and listens to the radio. So there's, you know, that. And then from their impact, it's starting to, you know, shift and impact Chloe, my elder sister. And we've kind of had like a less connected relationship over the years, age gap, but then also I've been like the black sheep of the family. I've always pushed the edges and done the different thing. And now like I'm feeling the shifts in Chloe. And then, you know, Toddler, my brother-in-law, Amber's husband, he's come to a 1-day with Espen. And I can feel it in Joel and the kids. And it's not from this pushing of anything. It's like, this is just the way we be. And I don't know, for me, it's learning, and it's been a long path of learning that what we be is going to transform more people than what we do. It's how we make them feel that they remember. So, and that's one of the biggest learnings that I know that my time with Rue and Rye, I'm not with Cool to Be Conscious anymore. I've gone on my own path. Same like I was with Ripple Effect and with Dr. Espen. It was like I got to learn and experience and create incredible things, and it's going, I know it's time for me to step into me. But one of the biggest things that I learned from the boys was they impacted me more from their state of being than anything that they did. It was how calm they were, how slow they were, how accepting they were of, oh, okay, that thing didn't go well. All good. Like, we'll keep working on it. Whereas for me, I'll pressure mind over here. Like, fuck, what are we going to do? Like, fix this thing. It's like, it's all right. And so that's why I know that everything in life has happened exactly as it's supposed to, because it's given me these tools to now implement that and be that. And that's been hugely shifting for those around me. So
I wanted to ask how much stronger is your connection with your family now that they've incorporated all these modalities?
I'm going to dob him in. I'd seen my dad cry once before I was 25, and that was when his dad passed, and it was still very, you know, like he was trying to hold it back. Yeah. I was down at Christmas with the family. I saw him cry 3 times in 4 days, and not like you know, and people hearing that like, fuck, what's all this work about? Am I just going to stand there and cry? I was like, no, they were tears of gratitude. He was so overwhelmed with happiness and joy and gratefulness that he was crying. We were crying together, that this life is so incredible. We get to be together and we can have the most open conversations. Our entire family will sit around and discuss the most challenging topics and face them head on. You know, over the last couple of days being in Hay with the family, there's been things that have come up for those we care about within our family that it's just like, bring it all. Like, don't hold anything back. You are supported. And, you know, it's the same thing, even like my grandparents, having conversations with them in Mildura and Hay on some really tough generational topics, like things that happened when my mum was a little kid that I'm raising on behalf of the family to go, hey, there's some things here that I feel you guys should be feeling into and discussing. Not from a place of you should do this, but again, from my being going, I feel that there's hurt here and no one else is speaking into it. So I feel as though it's, you know, something I won't say obligation, but I get to share and get to speak into. And it's amazing witnessing, you know, when you just create that little bit of safety and like, hey, it's all right, how quickly people open when they just have that space to share and know that there's not judgment. So our family is so close and I'm so blessed, so blessed. I was joking about this the other day that when you're doing the work, you're helping a lot of people and a lot of it, you know, they're talking about a past trauma or a past experience. And I'm looking at all these people, I'm going, fuck man, they got this trauma and they got that trauma and they got this issue and this person's been sick in their family, they've lost this family member. I'm like, look at our family. Like, look at my sisters, my mum and my dad. We all love each other. We hang out. We have this amazing time. We're connected with our whole family. There's no fucking trauma in our family. How epic's this? And then it was that moment like the penny dropped. I was like, oh, I was the trauma of our family. I was the one that caused the shit. You know, I was in and out of hospital for a couple of years and I was the one that scared them to think I wouldn't be around. So it was humorous for me to be like, it's so good. And then, oh, I was that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it's awesome to see that it all starts from you leading by example, and you doing the work that you did has now opened up the room for your family to do that same work, and it's brought you closer together. And I see that now within my own family, and with my parents, as I mentioned before, my dad after the 3 days and opening up, and it all comes down to really vulnerability breeds vulnerability.
Yeah.
And even my mum now, like, she journals, she does gratitude.
Yes.
Meditation, she does all that stuff, but she didn't do that before, but she's seen me doing it and ask questions.
Yeah.
And I was like, try that for yourself. And now she does it every single day.
Yeah.
So it's so powerful when you actually start to lead by example and not force.
Yeah.
Because that's how you truly make change.
Yeah. That's, you know, when you hear a saying, and this applies for everyone listening to this, you know, when you hear a saying and go, oh yeah, it kind of just floats by, you know, Nike, just do it. So simple. Or, oh, now I'm going to go blank for examples. That's the first example. I'm going to stick with that for the moment. So Nike, just do it. Or be the change you wish to see in the world. You kind of hear it and it's just a cliche. And then there's times in your life where you might be pondering or something hits and it lands. Like the emphasis and the depth and the power of that quote lands. So be the change you wish to see in the world. It's not do the change or create the change. It's be the damn change. Just be it. And so it's not go out and try to force things down people's throat or teach them a new thing. If you want to see more love, be more love. If you desire to see more wealth, be more abundant in yourself, and that will impact others. And you have those times when it just drops in. Like it was for me probably 6 months ago, just do it from Nike landed. Because I've gone, it's all about taking action. And that's, although it's so simple, the 3 words, it's really cueing people to do the thing that you're scared of doing. Because on the other side of it is so much reward. And so it's so simple. But when it hits, you go, wow. You know, that came from the, you know, as far as I'm aware, that came from the, you know, the founders, the early team within Nike. They knew what they were doing. So that word, like that saying, just do it, that's got some weight to it.
Yeah.
One of the biggest companies in the world. It's one of the biggest brands in history. Yeah.
There's so many things that in society now just brush past us. Like even if I say like, hey, how are you going? People just say good and they walk past. Or even I seen the video of the act of kindness. You know, you paid for someone's drink and they're in shock. They're like, they just don't process it.
Yeah.
And I really liked that video because you explained because we're not used to it and then we're in disbelief.
Yeah.
And then when we actually take time to process it, we're like, wow, did that actually just happen to me?
Yeah.
And it goes to show like we need to start doing more of this stuff. And when you're actually doing it, have intention behind it. Even like, hey, Todd, how are you today? And just, hey, mate, how are you?
Yeah.
Like actually have that deep intention to you actually want to know how you are today.
Yeah.
It's not just a saying. So it all comes down to intentions. And if everyone can implement it, I think society will be a much better place.
Yeah. The one for those listening to take in and implement, and yourself as well, is whenever you're listening to this, do this today. Just with one person, just experiment to see if I'm full of shit. And that's when you ask someone, you know, Nick, how are you going? You'll likely get, yeah, good, not bad, all right. They're your 3 most common answers. Yeah, okay. How are you really doing? It takes one extra question. How are you doing? Yeah, all right. How are you really doing? And then you'll typically get people go, oh, like deer in the headlights, or someone actually cares. And that's the moment where they go, I've got a space here to share. And so you'll typically find that people go, dude, I'm wrecked. Like I'm so exhausted from this and this and this. And like, they get that moment to let it out.
Yeah.
And it might be 30 seconds of just venting their challenges and they go, oh, that feels good. Or it might be, and this is what I find when I've got more closed people is, how you doing? Yeah, all right. How you really doing? Yeah, I'm pretty good. Like, how are you doing underneath that? Like, what's going on? And that's when you'll, it takes a couple questions and they crack. And it's so simple, but it catches people. And it's what we call a pattern interrupt. So they're so used to the pattern of, how you doing? Yeah, all right. What about you? That's just our pattern of
just moving
small
past
talk,
it.
yeah? So when you interrupt that pattern, their nervous system, their subconscious goes, huh? And they don't know what to do. So in that moment, when they're in uncertainty, they're actually also, and this is a hack of the subconscious, more emotionally vulnerable to open because they don't have like solid footing of where they usually go. They're like, they don't have something to just like quickly walk through.
Yeah.
They're unsure. And so as a result, they want to move forward with conversations. So they'll talk into things more quickly. It's epic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to try it today.
Yeah.
Everyone listening, give it a go. Because, that first how are you just brushes past them. But the second one, they actually process it like, wow, okay, how am I today? Yeah. This person actually cares. They're holding space for me. As you said, they let it all out.
Yeah.
Sometimes it may take a third how are you to actually get there. But just do it because, a lot of people hold a lot of stuff because they feel like no one cares or they feel like they're a burden to other people.
Yeah.
But by you holding that space, creating that safe environment for people to actually open up and share, so important. Yeah. So important. You mentioned before about the matrix and bringing, breath work and I guess this holistic way of life or how life should be to the Western world and our society now. And are you running an event? Is it? I've seen it. Do you want to kind of touch on that? Is that coming up soon?
Yeah. So shifting the matrix is the event. And the way the event came to be and what it is spawned from actually early on when Trav, Rip and I first started the Ripple Effect. We were talking about at that point in time, I had this desire. We'd been going to an event called like Mastermind. And it was where you'd come in, everyone would, anywhere from 7 to 50 people would come in per week and we'd go through and connect and set goals for the month. And it was awesome, but there was aspects of it that I felt like, hey, we could, going through it, there was parts that I thought, yeah, this is great, but there's so much more. And before that, I'd had this desire to run an event where we had keynote speakers coming in and talk about their topic so people could learn. So, when you might go to a National Achievers Congress or you might go to a Dr. Espen event or you might go to, those one-day events where people go to, but they're every so often. And for me, how do we bring that level of value and that level of hard-hitting content in a 2.5 hour period, but have it not so it's just one speaker, there's two, because, usually someone will go, oh, no, they're not my vibe, but they might be. So for me, I was like, that's what I want to do, but I also want to give pragmatic value. So shifting the matrix for me is this event came to be from going, I've been deep in the blue pill. For those that have seen the Matrix, or if you haven't, the blue pill is the reference to being in the Matrix. You're in the system, you believe everything you're told, you don't question anything, you're in the illusion. Then the red pill is people that have questioned things, people have stepped out it, they see beyond the veil, they see beyond the illusion. And so you could say the blue pill is like the corporate material wealth, finance, investing world, where it's all about accumulate wealth, create money, if some people want to use like the house, the car, the boat, that kind of thing. Yep. Got to get it done, got to get to this largely in stress. Picket fence. Yes, yeah. And then the red pill is the side of, consciousness, spirit, breathwork, energy, mindfulness, holistic health, nutritional practices, training. The other side where it's like fulfillment-based, not achievement-based. And having been on both sides and having been on this journey, as I mentioned earlier, which is where it circles back, was for me going so much of the people in the space, if you're in the corporate world, you go, fuck, look at those bunch of hippies doing breath work. But if you're in the breath work space, you go, look at those guys that are so caught up in trying to make money that they don't even enjoy their life. Yeah. There's this massive bigoted separation. And for me, having been on both sides, it's like they're both important. And so the journey for me for 2023 is what we call the purple pill, which my client Kiani, she brought that to me, was the idea of the purple pill. And that's both, bringing them together, because it doesn't have to be one or the other. And so this event was having a speaker, an expert or a leader from the blue pill space, and then having a leader from the red pill space. Two completely opposite energies, two completely opposite perspectives, two different stories, two different journeys, largely and ideally two different topics that share. So that way people that might be really blue pill oriented have come for the social media influencer or the CEO of a multi-million-dollar company to hear, or, an investment strategist where they can learn about how to make more wealth, passive streams of income, whatever it is. They get that, but then they hear this red pill person talking about breath work or talking about intermittent fasting or whatever it is. And they go, that's interesting. I got gut issues and this thing could help me. Oh, I know. And then so they start to open to the red. And then vice versa, someone that's really red pill oriented that's there to hear from the meditation teacher, whatever it is, they then hear the guy talking about wealth. And because most people in the red pill space are broke, they don't have wealth because they go, no, but money's the root of all evil, all that. They go, ooh, passive streams of income through referrals, that's interesting. I wonder if I could do that. And they start to open to blue. And then they start to realize it's not bad, neither are bad. They both have a purpose. And for me, that's a massive part of my mission now, is to go two different spaces. Let's bring them together and create a balance, because that's what, to me, as long as we're in this human experience, we're going to have both. We're in the three-dimensional physical reality, but then we also have these aspects to us that we can't explain. So it's like, why deny either if we can bring them together? And so, we arrive and the people come in, there's breath work to begin with, drop them in. Then there's the intention and giving them the explanation of what, the red, the blue and the purple pill are. Then we have our blue pill speaker. Then we have our red pill speaker. And then at the end, we have the pragmatic aspect, which is going through and setting out what are now your objectives for the next month based on the blue pill speaker, based on the red pill speaker, and then based on the purple pill. So they'll actually get people that are red pill will actually be setting blue pill objectives, and vice versa. So that people are creating fulfillment and achievement. They're doing both, because I feel like that's lacking so much. And so for me, I haven't seen this done before, not in the way where it's it's purposely set to polarize. So our first two speakers, this won't go out before the post is launched, so I can say it. The first two speakers, we have Kiani Mills, who's the CEO of Imperial Property. She's done incredibly well in business and corporate world down in Melbourne. So she's going to be speaking on that, and she comes with that professional businesswoman, vibe. And then our other speaker is Mark Halar, Tarzan, who's looks like Jesus or Tarzan, or like Tom Hanks from Castaway. Yeah. And he's also done really well in business. However, he comes from a completely different energy and look. So we've got the polarity where people might be getting a similar message about business success, but two completely different views. And some people are going to click with Kiani and some people are going to click with Tarzan. And the intention is there's always incredible amounts of value for whoever is attending. Plus then the objectives that they get to set out and have accountability to, because the event will be running once per month on the sunny coast.
Yep.
And so 2 different speakers every time. And then ideally what will happen at the end of the year is we're going to have like a day event where we have, say, 8 of the most asked for speakers, and they come in and they answer and go through what the audience and the crew have asked for. We might even have like debates or so. There's a part of me like wants to have debates between like the blue and the red pill, because it's just that people are like, oh, cool, like that'd be interesting. Like, yeah. So that's the current focus, is that event. And that was literally just an idea, 2 months ago. Wow. Something that just popped up, but then it's putting it into reality because it's flowing. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
In a way, it shows that we can have the best of both worlds. We can be successful in business and financially, but also be successful in our own health and our own well-being, and have that wholesome life that we all strive for, yet a lot of us don't even achieve, because we get so caught in either the red or the blue pill. Yeah. We go to the extremes without coming to the middle and that purple pill, and that's where you come in and the events and stuff. So, man, that is awesome. When is the first event kicking off?
So the first event is Wednesday, the 1st of Feb. Yep. So it's the first Wednesday of every month.
Yeah, okay.
So, and it'll be in the evening. So it's like 6 p.m. Or it's 6 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. So 2.5 hours. That way people can have finished work and they get to, they also get to bed at a reasonable time, because they'll be networking and things beforehand and all of that. So that's the event. Yeah, the first Wednesday of every month. And then that, the other thing or the other aspect that I'm doing, which it funnily links in with, is the identity system, which is, as I've shared many times, it's my life's work. It's what I'm here to do, what I've realized I know I need to bring to the world. I hadn't realized this until recently, but the first level of the identity system is called the shift. And so I've got shifting the matrix, and so there's also the shift, and that identity system's the 20 weeks of coaching, all on the identity system, building to the final 10 weeks of the implementation of it. So yeah, there's that. And then the other part I'm doing is working with the private clients, which is business owners. So those that have already got a team, they've already created the financial success, and it's, what am I going through? Typically what I'm realizing from people that have created this success in the blue pill, the business world, they've got the finances, they've got the house, they've got the car, all of that, they've got that freedom, is 1, they're scared that their relationship is going to break down. 2, they don't have optimal health. 3, they're not actually fulfilled. 4, they're not living their purpose. Like, they're the 4 things that have become really clear to me. And so my intentional work in that space is work with people that are doing well in business, that are going, there's something missing, and then enable them to experience that, create that shift, and they know it so deeply in their being that then just from their being, they start to shift the people around them. So there's kind of the 3 forks, I guess you'd say, the 3 branches of the work I'm doing at the moment: live event, the online coaching, and then the private coaching.
Yeah. That's awesome. It creates that ripple effect, as you mentioned. These people will get these lessons and these learnings and then go back to their own little communities and teach that as well. And it just continues to spread and make society just more wholesome and such a better place to be in. Dude, fuck yeah. I'm excited for you. And so all these events are going to be on the sunny coast. Any of them going to be like live streams or any of that? So anyone can tune in?
You're probably like the 4th or 5th person that's asked that. This first event we won't, because it's nail the foundations. Yeah. As you've been to Nissi with Erwin, you get the nail it, then scale it. Mm-hmm. Nail it first, then focus on doing it live, live streaming it or whatever it is. Yeah. To begin with Sunny Coast, I have a feeling that the framework of this event, I'm going to need to do some trademarking and whatnot, but I feel like this is the kind of event that this could go in every major city. There's blue and red pill speakers, blue and red pill leaders from all around the world, everywhere. So there's no reason it couldn't happen in Brisbane. Have a host in Sydney, have a host in Melbourne, and they do the same thing. They have their team that brings in the speakers. They host it. You could be a host here in Sydney, and then it also gives you with the podcast, you've got this leverageable process where you can be, hey, I'm hosting this event. We're looking for speakers, and everyone loves telling their story.
Yep.
That's the thing. Is like people love oh, do you want to be on the podcast? Do you want to come and speak at an event? Because everyone's like so much so on the ego-centered sharing that they love that idea. And so what it can also do then for you is you go like, if you're hosting an event like this, that you're connecting with the speakers, and then from there you're like, hey, do you also want to be on the podcast? Yeah. And so it's like this is again where I'm talking red pill, blue pill. It's about service of the people, but then also how can I ensure that I can leverage this for my benefit to then help more people? So
it's a win-win for everyone, really.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah. Yeah. Toddy, we have a closing tradition on the podcast where the previous guest asks the next guest a question.
Oh, shit. Okay.
So the question for you is...
Fuck. Who was your last guest?
Can't tell you. Can't tell you. All right. So the question is, based on what you now know, what beliefs have you had in the past that you now believe to be untrue and that no longer serve you?
Fuck. I'm limited. I need to play small. I need to fit in. I need the approval of others. I'll give you one more. An old belief that is no longer true and no longer serves me. I feel like it's got to be around this health path. We can't heal ourselves.
Okay.
Yeah. All 5 of those I used to believe.
Yeah.
I believed that I was limited. I did believe that I needed the validation of people outside of myself. I did believe that I needed to fit in, to be loved. And I did believe, there was one other in there, but I did believe that we couldn't heal ourselves. Like I thought it was like, I'd been told for so long that the medicine was the only thing that could heal us. And I know all of those things to be untrue now. I've seen enough people have miraculous and spontaneous remissions and healings physically that I know that we can. So they'd be, 5 that pop to mind straight away, 100%.
And just by you removing those beliefs, you've been able to really step into who you are today and have the impact that you are having, man. So thank you for jumping on here, sharing your wisdom as you always do, and thank you for making the trip, Early morning, got here around 6 a.m. to record this podcast. I'm forever grateful for you, bro, and I'm grateful that we have connected and we've built a friendship off the back of this.
Yes, and we'll get you up to the sunny coast soon for one of those events.
Yes, for sure, bro. Appreciate it, man. Let's go.
Thank you, brother.